Hi, I'm Bowen, and welcome back to the Seventh Circle of Hell. You may have heard, but immigrants are flooding Europe, and some people are not really happy about it. What happens when a National Socialist faction collides with capitalism and foreigners? Well, Ireland is finding out. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like, and if you want to see more like this, subscribe, and also comment your thoughts along the way. Just keep it respectful. In early August, reports emerged that the new IRA was plotting to launch a violent campaign aimed at driving all immigrants out of Ireland. If you're not quite sure what the new IRA is, I'm going to give a brief description, but if you want a better description, go check out my channel because there's a full video up on the history of the IRA. New IRA is a socialist left-wing organization. So why is it breaking from the increasingly pro-immigration stance of much of the Western left? Well, its main goal is removing Britain from Northern Ireland, and from a nationalist view, it believes that Ireland should belong to just the Irish. Northern Ireland, like the rest of the UK, has seen a sharp rise in immigration, along with riots and protests involving both native and other European populations against this immigration. The new IRA views this immigration as a threat to their vision of an Irish Ireland. From 2020 to 2024, Northern Ireland had about 18,700 legal immigrants, while the Republic of Ireland had about 275,100 legal immigrants. You might be thinking now, since I put a qualifier on the word immigrant, what about the illegal immigrants? Well, there's an issue with that. I cannot provide a set figure for illegal immigration, and there's a few reasons. Neither the UK nor the Republic publish regular data on this. Even talking about legal immigrants, you have to go back to about 2024-2025 to get readily available public data on the matter. Both governments have pushed increasingly pro-immigration policies. Critics of both governments point out that criticism of immigrants or these policies often results in individuals being arrested and charged with speech crime violations. They even go as far as to not disclose immigration status or even racial or ethnic status in certain criminal documents to avoid potential racial or anti-immigrant animus occurring within the population. So both the UK and Ireland have a seeming high-stakes interest in burying and hiding these sorts of issues, as well as continuing to conceal the exact number of illegal immigrants within their countries. The best figure I can give you, and this is still a very uncertain figure, comes to around 20,000 illegal immigrants in the Republic of Ireland and 25,000 illegal immigrants in Northern Ireland. Again, this is a very rough estimate figure, and I would say it's not a strong degree of certainty, and it's probably much higher than that. But that's just the build-up to the eventual breaking point. What was the immediate trigger for the new IRA to threaten this civil war, this violent uprising? Well, reportedly, it was the June stabbing of Stephen Ogilvie by a Sudanese asylum seeker in Belfast. Warning, the following footage is extremely graphic. I have edited parts of it to make it, well, one, within guideline regulations, and two, not so disturbing, but it is still disturbing. I also left more of the footage in than you've probably normally seen because I felt like it was important to see what happens a little bit later in the video as well.
Has he got a knife?
Yeah. Get off him, you fucking rat. Yo! He's cutting him, he's cutting him.
He's trying to cut his head off. He's like, hurry up.
Hurry up!
He's slicing his head off here. Hurry up the fuck.
Hurry back in.
Come that bastard. Come that fuck.
Get him!
Quick. Kill him. Get him down. Let him go down. Let him come on. Yes. Yes. Get up. Get up.
There's a cop, there's a cop. Back off, back off, back off.
Bro,
Quick!
Get off. No! Bro, get off.
Quick! He's trying to cut his head off.
Bro. I can't cut him in the head. He's trying to cut his head off. He's just bastard here. He's just together. He's trying.
The British Isles are a an over-boiling pot, specifically over immigration and Orwellian politics. The arrests over posts online criticizing immigrants, Muslims, and governments, the death of Henry Nowak, multiple riots, attacks on synagogues and churches, as well as the grooming gang scandal, all driving unrest, not just within the IRA, this dissident faction of the population, but within regular citizenry as well. The left-wing nationalist movement views this as a threat and has made its willingness to embrace civil conflict very clear. Which, I mean, if you want in Ireland for Irish governments, specifically like the UK, which have allowed large-scale immigrants to enter, can be easily seen as a threat. And of course, in typical UK fashion, they pick the worst possible strategy. They've made it clear that they are not backing down and are willing to work with Ireland to get the immigrants out of harm's way. So keep them out of any crossfire created by the new IRA, who, frankly, from the reports of what they're claiming to be planning to do, would be perfectly fine if they're left alone just to target the immigrants and would avoid other populations. I'm not endorsing that, obviously. I'm just saying that the UK is basically saying, we're going to respond to the IRA, which is going to create crossfire, and we're going to focus on getting the immigrants out of the way of the crossfire. They're just not getting it, guys. Like, I feel like your concern should be your native population. But okay. In my opinion, this is the worst possible strategy. The UK is already underneath significant welfare pressure. The new IRA threat should not be a driving force or a reason or reform. What should be is the clear difference in outcomes, contributions, and welfare use between Western immigrants, non-Western immigrants, and the native population of the British Isles. Non-Western immigrants are, on average, net recipients with poor socioeconomic outcomes, while Western immigrants tend to be net contributors, with some portions of that population being, net takers, as well as some just breaking even. And of course, the same can be said for native populations. However, in totality, if you're talking about like per capita data, non-Western immigrants consume more on average welfare and are net recipients instead of net contributors to the system, meaning they take more than they give and they are consuming a lot. Here's a quick example of what I'm talking about that's driving this animus, this division. So in Ireland, there is currently a housing deficit of approximately 212,500 homes to about 256,000 homes, with over 440,000 young individuals living with their parents because they are just not able to access housing. Not because it's not affordable, but because there just isn't a supply of it available to them. What is driving this? Immigrant populations being given housing on taxpayer-funded dollars. Immigration is adding to the social pressure, while a lack of consideration for native populations by left-wing governments and gross inactivity by right-wing governments just further cause harm and drive issues. The new IRA is responding to this violently, continuing original goals accompanied by a new target. The Irish and UK governments want a peaceful solution, and the new IRA wants all immigrants out or civil war. The new IRA has also made it clear that it is willing to carry out violent attacks, just this year alone. In May, they were behind the bombings in Lurgan and Dunmurry. The Lurgan incident was where a gas cylinder device was placed in a hijacked van and driven into a police station, but failed to detonate. It was later destroyed without any casualties. In the Dunmurry incident, a similar device exploded outside of a police station during an evacuation of nearby homes, including families with infants. However, no one was also injured in that. So they're willing to commit violence. They just appear to be not very good at it. And you may have been thinking to yourself throughout this whole video that this mix of nationalism and socialism is somehow odd, because you've been told that nationalism is just a right-wing ideology. But this actually appears in parts of the far right all the time. I'll probably do a video at some point going deeper into what I'm about to talk about, but here's something to kind of give you a picture. We see it in the Fuentes-Groyper movement, where Nick endorses socialist figures and supports left-leaning economics, and blends them with ethnicity-based nationalism, identitarian policy. Where else do we see this exact sort of thing? Identitarian policy, left-wing economics. Well, the DSA. Now, just because it's attached to nationalism doesn't automatically make it right-wing. People seem to think it does, but it doesn't. Famously, like infamously, Nick has stated that he prefers Democrat, lefty politicians over right-wing politicians simply because of the identity of the politician's spouse. I'm talking about the J.D. Vance's wife's ethnicities controversy. This overall actually echoes World War II ideology, though with some key differences, and I'm talking about German ideology. And all of this really deserves its own video, so I'm going to kind of leave that there. Just remember that socialist movements can present as right-wing while holding left-wing economic views, using immigration concerns and other ethno-nationalistic tendencies to conceal themselves as right-wing and align themselves around unrelated issues. It's extremely disingenuous, and it's becoming a major problem, and it is very frustrating that to have conversations that expose this, you have to, one, expose it and call out the figure, but two, you have to work your way through people who insist that this idea of nationalized socialism or World War II German ideology not being left wing, you got to push through that. It's very frustrating. Just remember, National Socialists are left wing and can very easily disguise themselves as right wing and attach themselves to unrelated issues while still supporting very dangerous left wing economic policies. And I think that's where I'm going to leave today's video, with that notion, to just remember that this left-wing organization, the new IRA, is still left-wing even though they are supporting certain nationalistic ideas, and that they are willing to go to civil war over a legitimate issue. I will say there are people who will downplay this immigration issue, and of course, if you're in certain countries, try to legally prohibit you from talking about this immigration issue. But ultimately, they're not misidentifying the problem. Now, do I necessarily agree with their methods? No. And do I agree with their overarching politics and policies? No. But they're not misidentifying the problem, and this is a real issue that the British and Irish governments have created. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please like, and if you want to see more like this, please subscribe. And as always, drop your thoughts in the comments. I will say, as always, as well, just keep it respectful, but also let's focus on the main topic at hand, because there will be a later video about the little caveat I gave, the little caveat rant I gave, and I think conversing about that is better suited for the later video. So let's focus on the main topic at hand if you're going to give your thoughts. I'll also know you didn't watch the end of the video if you start talking about the other. So there's that. Anyways, have a great rest of your day, and God bless.